Hello friends, this is Worm, and I know it's been a long time. I do apologize for that. I'll be really honest with you. I have not been playing Destiny 2 very much. Last time I played Destiny 2 was 11 days ago on December 19th. And so yeah, it's been a minute. But alas, I did want to, on the second to last day of the year, I did want to talk about some of my hopes for Destiny in 2025, because I have a big list of things that I really would like to see change with Destiny. They include minor things such as introduction of new loot, all the way up to like core gameplay changes. So I figured we'd talk about those. Of course, if I miss any, feel free to go in the comments and let me know, or of course, let me know your thoughts on some of these ideas that I had. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into my list of hopes for Destiny 2 in 2025, starting off with one of the biggest for me right now, which is a reduction in repetition, because Destiny 2 right now feels so repetitive. That's why I have not played it in 11 days, because it just feels like there's just nothing really new to do. And this is something that happens in every single game. Like, you could make this argument for any game. Oh, well, you know, in Fallout, you run out of stuff to do. In Call of Duty, you run out of stuff to do. It's the same thing over and over. But I think in these other games, it's broken up by a variety of means, you know, through maybe some different build crafting and stuff like that. And they're constantly implementing new things into these games. Destiny 2, even though we have like seasons, or I guess episodes as they're called now, the unfortunate thing is these don't solve the core issue, you know. And I think this has really been substantiated by episodes, because we get an episode, you know, we get an activity that we do, and the activity are typically fun, but it's not something that I can grind for hours and hours and hours, you know. And then a couple weeks later, we get another activity, a new activity that's also really fun, but again, like after 2 or 3 weeks, it just kind of like, okay, like it's kind of old now, I don't want to do it anymore. And of course, here soon we're going to get another act dropping that's going to give us, you know, an exotic mission, and that's all we're going to get. And the exotic missions, like, you know, they make the whole act 3 about the exotic mission, and I'm not a big fan of that, because I don't really want to sit there and do the exotic mission 500 times in a row personally. It just feels repetitive, you know. It feels like I'm constantly just doing the same thing over and over, and I think that's what causes a lot of players to have burnout. You know, we've seen you know, videos about people talking about how Destiny 2 is at the lowest, you know, player count it's been at ever, blah blah blah. And I don't necessarily think that that is a Destiny 2 problem. Like, I don't think that's necessarily a Destiny 2 problem. I think that's just kind of the holiday season where we are in Destiny 2. It's just kind of at a slow point in time every year. At the Dawning, for some reason, I just never play the Dawning, because it's just not really, like, I'm kind of burnt out of Destiny. So I don't think that it's, you know, I'm not saying Destiny's a bad game, but it is very repetitive, and it is kind of just boring, I guess. And I would like to see a reduction in that repetition coming in 2025. Now, moving on to my next idea, and this kind of wraps up in the first one here, the introduction of more engaging content. Obviously Destiny 2, I wouldn't say Destiny 2 is like a disengaged, you know, game. Like, it's not like a passive game. Like, you do have to actively build, craft, you know, and stuff like that. But currently, I think that the content that we have and the content that we've had, not really all that engaging. That's one of the reasons why I find myself in the Crucible so much, because the Crucible is honestly one of the most engaging points of the game. Like, you know, it's just like, oh, let me hop in and you know, play some Crucible, because I'm playing against other players who can think for themselves. But, you know, if I go in and do PvE activities like Grandmaster Nightfalls and stuff, it's like, okay, like, I know there's a champion gonna spawn here, and I know that, you know, these enemies are gonna come from here, and I know what to expect in the next room and stuff like that. And the content just over time has just felt less and less engaging. And I know Bungie is working on this. They've talked about it before, that they're looking at, you know, altering some spawns so the enemies, you don't know where they're necessarily going to come from. Like, they could come from in front of you or behind you or beside you. And I like the idea of that, because I think that's going to, you know, increase player, you know, the engagement with the actual activities that we're doing. But yeah, I want to see more engaging content, more content that's, you know, it's fun to do. I do the content because it's fun to do the content, not because of the reward that comes after. Because, you know, for me, that's why I play the Crucible. Like, I play the Crucible because it's fun to play the Crucible. The rewards, never mind the rewards. Like, it's just fun to go and fight other Guardians face to face in the Crucible, versus, you know, doing a Tomb of Elders or something, where it's like, okay, like, I'm just doing Tomb of Elders so I can get the loot, so I can get my chance at loot. But yeah, introducing more engaging content, that's one of my wishes for Destiny 2025. Next one, This one is a classic. Vault space is still an issue. And I think, for the past few years, like, my wish list has been, oh, we want more vault space. I'm not asking for more vault space anymore. I want an entirely like new vault system that will allow us to not have the constant issue that we have. Because here's the thing, every time you add more vault space, oh, it's great and it's good until all of a sudden that vault space fills up. And then it's like, oh, well, now what do? I need more vault space. And Bungie, they can only add so much vault space. You could add you could increase us to 1,000 vault space, right? We go from 700 up to 1,000 within 6 months. Players are going to be complaining that they don't have any vault space. We need a vault system overhaul, and how they want to do that, I'd kind of leave it up to them. If they want to introduce maybe some sort of system that would allow players to, pull weapons from, the collections and have the specific perks that they got. Like, I don't know what necessarily would be the way that they would go about that, but we need a vault system overhaul, something that just fixes the core problem, which is that we're constantly running out of space. I want to see that happen, and I hope that does happen in 2025, because I don't know about y'all, but I think I'm at 695 vault space right now, and I'm constantly going my vault and like, okay, like, what can I get rid of? Oh, I'm too attached to all this stuff, or oh, this will be good one day in the future, even though it hasn't been good in like years and years and years, but next season it'll be the season for that. So yeah, a vault system overhaul would be much appreciated. But moving on, I would love to see ingenuity of gameplay. And by ingenuity of gameplay, I mean, this kind of ties into the engaging content and stuff like that. But whenever I'm playing content, like, it's typically the typical loop of Destiny feels like, oh, I put a build on that's gonna, benefit, me, and it's gonna help, me do better. It's gonna help me do this, that, and the other. When I say ingenuity of gameplay, I want gameplay that really switches up the loop. I want to see more team-oriented builds and play styles. Like, yes, we have a couple of, support builds, so to speak, but instead of just support builds, I mean team-oriented builds. Have some subclass, synergy that gives us some substantial stats for us and our teammates. And we saw that kind of with Banner of War. Banner of War will passively heal your teammates as long as they're close to you, which I think is really nice. But I would love to see more of that, more of that ingenuity, that something that really breaks the mold of how you play Destiny 2, instead of just, oh, like, here, what what can I do to benefit myself? It's more like, hey, what can I do to benefit the team? Not just myself, because nothing's worse than going into, not solo content, but, content where you're just doing standard matchmaking and everybody's running around doing their own thing. And you got, your rushing Rorys that try to go up and, get to the final boss as soon as they can, and you have your slacking Stevens that hang back and just kill everything. You have your kids that don't even know what they're doing. They join in here and they're just kind of meandering around, and it's just like, okay, it's all over the place. Like, I would love to see some sort of gameplay design that brings players more together, and not just through mechanics, like, like Queen's Walk, for example. I don't want to see like Queen's Walk where it's like, oh, well, everybody just has to like stick as a ball and run together. I mean, reasons to, hey, like, I want to stick pretty close by, and again, we have builds that do that. For example, Warlock, Solar Warlock, with healing grenades, you can put on Lumina, but at the same time, it feels like when I'm playing on like Solar Warlock and I'm doing a support build, I have to stay close to my teammates for it to work. And I'd like to see it kind of reverse, like, hey, like, if you want, healing, if you want this, that, and the other, stay close to me, and have teammates, okay, well, I'm going to build into Woven Mail for the team, and I'll build into Restoration for the team, and I'll build into, I don't know, whatever else, Void Invisibility for the team, just stuff to build into team play and to really, like, just enhance the gameplay that we experience. Moving on, though, I think that's it's obviously, I want to see a host of new exotics that substantially alter the gameplay. We know we're getting new exotics in the years to come. The thing about these exotics, I don't just want to see new exotics added for the sake of having something exotic added to the game. I want to see exotics that actually substantially alter the gameplay. We have got some great exotics in the past. What is it? The Speaker Sight, for example, for Warlock. Speaking of, healing Warlock, like, that's a great exotic. But does it really change the way you play support Warlock? No, not really. I mean, it gives you access to an easier way to heal and a more reliable way of healing, but it doesn't alter the way that you play the game. And I would love to see exotics that really like change how you play the game, you know. Off the top of my head, I can't even think of any exotics that really alter like, you know, how you play the game. But, you know, we have a bunch of stuff that do things like, oh, here's an extra grenade, oh, here, you know, your grenade now does this, or your class ability does this, you know. Maybe something like what is it, Arbor Warden, where you can turn your barricade into a grenade that you can throw, and wherever the grenade lands, that's where your barricade pops. Like, that's something that really alters the gameplay. Like, that's different, that's unique. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see going forward, you know. Maybe a warlock exotic, for just following on the same route as Arbor Warden, maybe a warlock exotic where you can throw your rift, you know. Oh, I'm gonna throw a rift over here behind this piece of cover for my teammate or something like that. Like, you know, I don't know, this is just me spitballing ideas over here. But, you know, exotics that really enhance gameplay and change how you play the game. Not just, oh, let me make my super strong build even stronger. Like, yes, those are fun every now and then, but I think that it's more fun to have new stuff, to do new builds and new things entirely. So yeah, that's my wishes for exotics. And finally, of course, we have loot. And loot, this is a pretty broad category, but for loot, when I think of loot in Destiny 2, like, it doesn't, I hate saying it doesn't feel like a looter shooter, but the loot doesn't really feel worth it in Destiny 2, if we're being honest with ourselves. Like, you know, I remember back in D1, when you got something, that meant something to you. Like, when you got a legendary weapon, that meant a thing to you. Now, like, legendaries, they drop like candy, and even exotics drop like candy, and, you know, like, I'm not playing in the content because I've already got the god rolls that I wanted on X weapons, because, you know, I can get so many of these weapons in such a high volume, and I can get them with double drops too, that, like, it's like, I don't really need to go in there and grind out to get X, Y, and Z. You know, I just need to play a little bit. I'll eventually get one and call it a day. And that's one of the things that's, you know, I miss from Destiny 1. And granted, I know why they do that in Destiny 2, because Destiny 1 was not a new player friendly game. Like, it was not a casual friendly game, because if you really wanted good stuff, you had to invest time. Like, I don't know if y'all remember back in the days of like Forever 29 in Destiny 1, you would have raid teams that would exclude you if you weren't at max power level, which sounds like, oh, like, that doesn't sound like a big deal because it's easy to get to max power level now. No. Back in D1, the way it worked is the only way to get your effectively pinnacle loot is what it was to do the raid. And when you had raid groups that didn't want to do the raid because you weren't high enough level to do the raid, it just made it almost impossible to get to that, you know, that level and do that content. So I understand why they don't, like, why loot is not necessarily as rare as it once was. But I really think that if you want to bring back the magic of Destiny 2, you really need to dial back the loot drops. You really need to make those weapons feel special, make those world drops and those raid drops feel special. And they've started going back to those roots by removing crafting from seasonal exotics. I'm sorry, seasonal weapons, not seasonal exotics. By removing crafting from seasonal weapons, it does feel like it's a little bit more, like, there's more of a reason to play. But at the same time, like, those weapons still drop like candy. Like, it's not really helping. And I'm not saying that I necessarily want to ruin it for the casual gamer. Like, that's not what I'm trying to convey here. I want loot to feel more meaningful, and that's what I'm talking about whenever I'm saying a loot overhaul. And again, this is something I leave to Bungie. Like, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, well, they should do this, 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 and this. Like, I'm not the game developer, and I know that there's a lot of YouTubers that think that they're developers and they spit out their, you know, ideas for like what development should do and stuff. But let's be honest, like, the people who know what's best for Destiny are probably the game developers. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, with that being said, that's my wish list for Destiny in 2025. I want to hear your wishes for Destiny in 2025. Do you hope that we see some of this stuff? Just let me know that stuff in the comments. Of course, if you like today's video, drop a like, helps the channel a lot. Subscribe for daily Destiny content, conversations, debates, all that stuff. I'm back after my Christmas break, so I promise we're gonna keep it rolling. And yeah, do me a favor, watch the videos you see on the end screen here, because for whatever reason YouTube thinks you'll like them. Guys, I will see you all next time. Bye for now.